I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Education and Public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Chambers, roll call.
Mr. Nichols? Here. Ms. Parkhurst?
Here.
Ms. Moyer?
Here.
Mr. West? Here. Ms. Pritchard?
Here.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for attending tonight. It isn't easy to try to get to the high school currently with all the road closures, so I thank you for gutting it out and getting here. And just a reminder, after the last meeting, I did get a number of emails, as did other board members. So if you have any questions, you can call us or email us. Call or email Mr. Sable or Mr. Chambers if you have any questions. But we did get a lot, and I appreciate that. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on March 19th and the special meeting work session on April 9th?
I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes for both meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. West. Are there any additions or corrections? Is your thing still broken? Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West? Yes. Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Moyer?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Are there any additions, removals, modifications to the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Mr. Nichols, thank you. Can we have roll call?
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Moyer?
Aye.
Mr. West? Yes. Ms. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, Superintendent's Communication.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to start by welcoming our Blake B families here this evening and Principal Lavdis for their presentation on what's happening at Blake, especially for coming on such a beautiful evening.
Thank you for inviting us to come this evening to share some really exciting things that we are doing at Blake. Student leadership at Blake is our presentation theme tonight. Let's go. When we talk about student leadership, finding one's voice has always been woven into Blake's culture. We're always looking for opportunities for students to find strengths and hidden talents and be able to apply those strengths and hidden talents to leadership opportunities. And throughout the last few years, we have really been trying to come up with new and novel ways for students to be able to have a voice in their school and community. So we've had lots of opportunities. When we talk about this year, we had our talent show, which gives students who have that strength of whether it's singing, dancing, joke telling, magic tricks, whatever that might be, an opportunity for them to showcase those talents. Thrilling Thursday leaders. Thrilling Thursday was something that we have done for many years. It has had several names. They are multi-grade level family groups where students in grades K through 5 are mixed together and they meet once a month. This year we thought we would try giving students more leadership opportunities and having them run the meetings. And the picture there that's on the left is of a few of our Thrilling Thursday leaders actually leading the lesson for that meeting. Unfortunately, with a lot of other things happening, our Thrilling Thursdays have kind of stopped and been replaced with other things, but we're going to look at ways that we can incorporate some of those leadership ideas next year. Safety patrol, I know all schools have safety patrol, but it's another opportunity for students who want to show leadership and responsibility can take part in that. Book buddies and buddy teams. Our older students partner with younger students for some mentoring opportunities where they read books together and really build some really nice relationships with each other. And then buddy teams is something new that we're doing this year, where we have 2 grade levels collaborating together on a grade level project. So for example, kindergarten and 3rd grade have been working on an animal unit together and separately, and they are going to be doing dioramas and animal skits, and then they're going to culminate with a combined trip to the zoo, which they're all very excited about. 4th grade musical, which is the picture up on the top right. That was another opportunity for our 4th graders to try out for some lead roles, chess club and Scrabble club, just to name a few. And I can't not congratulate, when we speak of chess club, Samuel Toops Flad was the entire tournament chess club winner for Medina and Wadsworth, so we're really proud of him. From my understanding, it's the first time a Blake student won the entire tournament, so we were very proud of that. So the first group of student leaders that I have here are K-Kids. We have our officers of K-Kids. A couple things about K-Kids, though. So K-Kids is open to anyone who would like to help the school or the local community. There are about 100 students who are involved in K-Kids at Blake. Sorry, I'm off to the side because I'm good. If I stand on that, I'll be 10 feet tall. There are 100 students that are involved, and the K-Kids is run by Mrs. Nightingale, who is here tonight, Mrs. Dennis, and Mrs. Meyer, who are all teachers at Blake, and they are phenomenal. I mean, when I first heard there were going to be 100 students staying after school for K-Kids, I thought, oh my goodness, that's a lot of students. What are you going to do? They have done an amazing job. They get the Kiwanis, Key Club students at the high school. They come over and they help run the meetings, and it's just, again, a great mentoring opportunity for the high school students and for our elementary students to work with them, and they are finding wonderful ways to give back to the school and to give back to the community. So I have Colin, Jackson, Addison, Sawyer, and Ava here tonight, and they are going to share a little bit about the work that K-Kids has done this year.
Welcome to our K-Kids presentation. I am Sawyer Brown, and I am Vice President of K-Kids. We want to tell you about how we help our community.
I am Addison Miller, and I am treasurer of K-Kids. Last year, we collected items to help the animals at the SPCA of Medina County.
Hi, my name is Jackson Harvey. I am the president of K-Kids, and here are some of our K-Kids members making kindness rocks for a kindness rock garden.
I'm going to pop in real quick just to say the rock garden idea, we had an Eagle Scout, Robbie Woolnow, who is a Medina High School student, create a little library for us this year, and the K-Kids decided it needed to be beautified, so they created a kindness rock garden, which you can see there, and encouraging people to add, community members, school students, anyone can add a rock to our kindness rock garden, or take one if they need one.
I'm Ava Petrangelo, and I am Secretary of K-Kids. This year we created a personal care pantry to help children at our school. We had to make posters to ask for donations to the personal care pantry, and we had to organize all the items we donated.
In conclusion, K-Kids is a group of students who want to help their community and school by spreading kindness and offering to help those who need it.
As a K-Kid, I promise to serve others and to make the world a better place for us.
Good evening. I'm Lindsay Ike. I'm the school counselor for Blake, and I'm one of the advisors for Junior Hope Squad along with Mrs. Lavdis. I have the pleasure of introducing some of our members of Junior Hope Squad to present tonight. We have Liliana, Jasmine, Tegan, Paige, and Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Liliana, and this is our 2023-2024 Hope Squad roster at Blake. Hope Squad members are students selected by their peers for being concerned about others, being good listeners and easy to talk with, being somebody you could turn to if you needed a friend, and being kind to others and does not bully. In Hope Squad, we try to reduce bullying, model positive behavior, increase inclusion, and connectedness. We also try to organize school-wide activities, and we seek adult help when needed.
Hi, I'm Tegan, and I'm going to be talking about the Hope Squad training. So, we went to the high school, and some of the high school Hope Squad members taught us about some stuff we should learn about Hope Squad, like when adults should know what's happening, or help others when they need help.
I'm Paige Rudicelli, and I'm going to be talking about like how over our weekly lessons that we've kind of talked about like boundaries and how to like calm or tame your emotions.
So Hope Week was something that when Mrs. Ike and I sat down, Hope Week was supposed to be kind of a week designated and devoted to kindness and hope. And we wanted to get the school involved and really make it a fun, interactive week. And we could have easily planned it, but we decided that we wanted our Hope Squad members to plan it from the ground up. So Hope Week was completely student organized and directed. They chose committees that they were interested in being on. We had an assembly planning committee because we ended the week with an assembly, a bulletin board creation committee so that they could spread the word, an announcement crew, and then an activity team.
Announcement team. Our team wrote daily announcements. We included the daily Hope Week activity, a hope quote, the Spirit Day theme, and a call to the action.
It's all right. Yeah. It's hard to see. So for each day, the assembly team then got together and they decided that there needed to be to tell the students what the day's activity was going to be. They wanted to make sure they left students with a positive message and a call to action. So be kind to others, open the door for others. The last one was use your manners, say please and thank you. So they were giving them a call to action each day.
Activities team. Our team came up with fun activities for Hope Week, like Spirit Days, reading to groups in the library, and a treasure hunt on Friday. And also Kindness Walls, which was a challenge held through the entire building, seeing who can put the most positive sticky notes on the wall. Staff and student bulletin board teams. Our task was to create bulletin boards of hope for both students and staff. We looked through resources from Miss Ike and chose what we felt would be the best ones. So we did the...
These are some of our things on the walls in the office. On the bulletin boards, we have how can teachers calm themselves down if they need a little break. And their mental wellness, and we had a few jokes. One of them was, what do you call a hippopotamus that's in Hope Squad? It is a hopopotamus. And the other one was, why do math books always look sad? They have a ton of problems.
Assembly team. On the last day of Hope Week, we had a whole school Hope Squad assembly to celebrate Hope Week. We planned out the entire thing, including writing an original script and creating original characters.
Can you tell us about your character?
I was Bad Hope Man, and I was like the bully in the story. And in this, it's when we were all introducing ourselves before we did the skit.
We ended our assembly with a sing-along of Hope Squad sung to the Ghostbusters theme.
Something's fun in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? It's something weird and don't look good. Who you gonna call?
Can you click on the Hope Squad song link? It's at the bottom. So this was fun. The students who were in charge of assembly team, they chose a lot of our students that were planning this. They realized that just our Hope Squad meetings were not going to be enough time. So they asked to come in during lunch, have working lunches. They asked to stay in at recess to get things finished. And so this group surprised me one day because they popped into the office and said, "It's indoor recess today. Can we stay?" Sure. So their task was they chose the song. They said they wanted songs and they wanted to have staff interact and they wanted to dance, and they had a list of songs. And so the day they came in, I said, "Well, what songs would you like to play?" And they said, "Oh, we have the right one." I said, "Well, what is it?" "Ghostbusters." "Okay, we need to change the words." Perfect. So they came up with the different words. I Ain't Afraid of No Hope. If you're having thoughts running through your head, I think that one was If There's an Invisible Man, something like that. So who are you going to call? If you're all alone and you need someone, call Hope Squad. So they changed some of the words and led the entire school in that song, and the students picked right up on it and sang along with them. It was amazing, and it was awesome to see the fact that they planned it. The skit that they were talking about, again, they wrote the whole thing. Tegan was Bad Hope Man, which he is as opposite of that as you can get. They had basically, they had written a script where a student had come in crying. A couple other kids were including Bad Hope Man, were being really mean to him, calling him a crybaby. And then Hope Man swoops in with his cape and asks him what's wrong and encourages him to speak to a Hope Squad member. So it was really well done, well written out. Just very proud of the work that they did.
Go ahead.
I think that's it.
So, Mandra West, so Robbie Wolna was one of my Boy Scouts, or one of our Boy Scouts. So I've known Robbie since he left your school. So there was a lot of lessons that I see in him, and part of the scouting movement is service and leadership. And one of the big things is it's very difficult for adults to help kids in leadership. And sometimes you just have to let them go and do their thing. And they learn by doing, and they become, what's the word I'm looking for? This is how our kids learn to be leaders of tomorrow, is today in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. So it's very nice to hear. But I know Robbie very well. I helped him build that.
You did?
Yes. Me and our scoutmaster, Mr. Milam, in his garage, and they were installing it at 9 o'clock at night. So
Well, we love it. It's beautiful and it's very popular.
That's good to hear. And he was here he came 2 board meetings ago and gave a presentation to the board. I made him come. I voluntold him, so.
Great.
But it's great to see these leadership skills being, let the kids go, let them come up with the ideas, and just kind of gently guide them.
Well, and as we talk about deeper learning opportunities for students and deeper learning opportunities in the classroom, and we're encouraging, obviously, our teachers to step back and take on that role as a facilitator and a guide rather than telling them, got to model what we're preaching. So it was important, and it was truly an amazing thing to see their brains working, and just the thoughts that they had that I would have never come up with.
I have seen that many times over the years, and you just go, okay, let's see where this goes. And usually it always turns out just fine.
Yes.
But they also learn when they make their mistakes that's equally important. So it's very good to see. Sounds like a really good programs.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I'd like to just thank you and everyone, the parents and students, for coming tonight on this beautiful day to showcase and share their talents with us. You mentioned so many mentoring opportunities in your building, and I think whenever there's an opportunity to mentor, it's great to take advantage of those.
Yes.
It's good for the kids who are mentoring as well as the mentee. Helps build good citizens as part of our portrait of a bee.
Exactly.
And just also the fact that you're giving your students time to discover their talents. We all are unique. We may not all be able to get up on that stage and sing a song,
Right.
but we all have our own individual talents, and sometimes it takes time to figure those out. So it's great to see the students having the opportunity to do that. And that song is going to be my new earworm. It is in my head now, and I'm sure all night it'll be in my head. Everyone did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to add one other thought I just thought of in scouting, and if you talk to Robbie, he will tell you this. It's a game with a purpose. So everything you do is a game with a purpose. This is a game with a purpose. It's not really a game, but it is a game
Right.
to a purpose. So
I like that.
I just want to thank you all for coming. How many of you that are still here were in the talent show? Anybody? Oh, yeah. I was there. You guys did great. I was really impressed. So thank you for that. I mean, that takes a lot of courage, the gymnasts. I think we have a future Bob Hope at Blake, and then a future heckler who was yelling out the answers to the jokes. But thank you so much for everything that you've done. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Blake. Yeah, the importance of these type of support programs and the development of the whole student just means so much. And it's about preparing our students not only academically but for life as well. Sometimes that's even more important. Next up, I'd like to invite Dr. Kwolek. On tonight's agenda is a recommendation to make an adjustment to the calendar for elementary buildings, and she's going to share that with you.
Yeah, and we don't do this lightly, so we like to get our calendars ready for the next 3 years. But we have an opportunity to provide some training to our elementary teachers that we feel is extremely important. So we're asking the board tonight to vote on a change to the calendar for this school year. There'll be no changes for preschool or grades 6 through 11, but we'd like to change for grades K through 5 only to cancel school for the last day of school. So May 23rd would become a professional development day for our teachers in grades K through 5, and then the last day of school would become May 22nd for grades K through 5. I didn't mention seniors because they will have graduated by then, but so grades 6 through 11 would stay the same. But again, for grades K through 5, we're asking the board to cancel the last day of school for elementary so we can provide some much important and much needed training in CKLA for our elementary teachers. So I didn't know if the board had any questions, but you'll see that as an item that requires board approval.
Dr. Kwolek, I know since we went to hours versus days, we are well above the state minimum, so I'm sure this has no impact on instructional hours for elementary.
Yes, we're well above, as are most districts, to be honest with you, the state minimum required number of hours, so it doesn't require us to make up a day at all for K through 5.
I kind of wish that you went first, so that way we could have asked all the Blake students what they thought, if we should vote yes or
There
no.
might, no, there,
Eh,
yeah, I can go check in the parking lot, but I'm gonna think
Yeah.
it might be okay.
Yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
Again, not that we don't think learning is really important and every single day in elementary is important, but this training will be very important for our teachers.
And we've only had one calamity day this year. We've had a fairly light winter, so that helps out.
It's not over yet. We've had.
We are in
it's
Northeast
April.
Ohio. You're right. It's
Yeah,
still
I don't
April.
think we're looking for snow in April, when it's, what, 75 out
This
right now?
this training's for curriculum
the
that's
new
coming
language arts
for next year.
programming for
Okay.
next year.
Some buildings are piloting it now, but it would be implemented across the district next year. Yep.
Whoa. Did you want the box?
No, I don't need the box.
Um,
I'm going to move it a little bit.
Yeah,
back and forth.
what are the teachers that are retiring going to do that day?
I mean, everyone's still invited to the CKLA training,
Okay.
so I'm sure teachers who are retiring will be invited to the training, but as a retiring teacher, you have lots of other things to do too. But every teacher, the purpose of this day is to be going to the CKLA training.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the next thing we have up, I'd like to invite our Director of Community Relations, Amy Busby. As everybody knows, we are redistricting our elementary buildings next year, and we have, and Amy's taken the lead on doing collaborative work in committees and with our buildings, staff, parents, and there's been students involved as well to develop transitional opportunities for our families through this process.
Thank you. Good evening. As Mr. Sable mentioned, we are getting ready to end yet another school year, and we are preparing as we transition our footprints for next school year. And I just wanted to bring the board and our community up to speed as to activities that are going to occur surrounding all of these happenings around the district. First of all, I want to mention that as part of our transition plan, there's going to be building visits for all the students that are going to be attending new buildings. On April 29th, Heritage will go visit Blake and Fenn. On the 3rd of May, Garfield will visit Blake and Northrop. And on the 16th, students from Blake and Waite that are going to Canavan will visit on that day. In addition to that, Garfield and Heritage will be holding open houses. These open houses are open to the community. It's a chance to take a building tour, see some student presentations and some student performances, and they're going to have art on display. So it's really going to be kind of a big deal and a way to recognize and honor these buildings. Just a reminder that Heritage will become Helping Hands Preschool, and Garfield will be home to our technology department, and it will become our professional development center, where eventually we will hold our board meetings there. Outside of that, I just want to inform the board and the community that we do have other activities happening outside of that as we close the school year. One of them is our Bike to School Week, which is May 6th through May 10th. So this is for the elementary buildings and the middle schools. We'll have Strings in the Park on May 17th, so that's at noon in Uptown Park. So pray for no rain, because this year we don't have a rain date. And this is due to how graduation practice falls. So normally we would try to host a rain date. Just a reminder, too, that the high school drama club has their last performance of The Prom. This is their spring musical. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, you have another chance this weekend. So tickets are still available, and you can get those online through the Performing Arts Center. The other thing that I wanted to mention is Showtime will be May 3rd and May 4th in the PAC. And on May 4th, they're actually going to have an alumni sing-along. So that will be before Showtime. So the sing-along is, I believe, at 2 o'clock, and then Showtime is at 4. So if you get a chance and you're available, certainly be sure to attend that. And that will wrap up the school year, which is kind of crazy. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Great, and those first open houses are actually coming up this Sunday, correct, Amy? Yep. So anybody that's interested. The last two items that I have for discussion are related to reductions as well as upcoming potential levy issue, and I'm going to combine those two items, even though they're listed as separate in my presentation and discussion this evening. So Craig, if you could go ahead and share that presentation. I broke the presentation up on reductions into two sections. my goal tonight is to make sure that there's clarification and understanding in regards to what's happening with the reductions. I know it can be confusing because we've had 2 phases of reductions, and in both phases we've been talking about similar amounts. So first, I want to talk about where we were at after the November 23 failure that occurred at the beginning of this school year. It's important to note that as I go through the information this evening, that all of the reductions that I'm presenting and recommending to the board this evening are all based off of a potential 7.5 mil levy going on the ballot this coming up November. So as we worked through decisions related to the reductions, those are the premises we worked under in making the decisions that we're sharing with the board this evening. We worked under those parameters based off of the conversation and discussion that we had at our work session just a week ago. So again, this is with the assumption that a 7.5 mil emergency levy, length to be determined, would be placed on the ballot on November 2024. So the first round of reductions was or is approximately $2 million, and that goes into effect for next school year. These reductions needed to happen, but were mandated by the state, by the Department of Education, and they were because of our 5-year forecast. They based it off the 3rd year of the 5-year forecast, which showed that we were going to have negative dollars. We needed to show that we could get those dollars into the positive, which unfortunately, really the only way to do that or make those substantial changes in a public school system are through reductions. Our number one expenditure is in personnel. We are in a people business in everything that we do. Our product is children, educating children, and it takes the resources and skills, abilities of people to be able to do that, and that's the educators throughout our district. And I'm referring to our administrators, our support staff, as well as our teachers. So we were able to work through reductions of administrators as well as the attrition of support staff and teachers in order to get to the $2 million mark. Attrition is not replacing positions of individuals that are leaving the district. Most of these are due to retirement. Many of these, or most of these reductions were able to occur because of the redistricting process that's happening next year. So with the closure or the changing of 2 buildings that allowed for consolidation of staffing positions and reassignment of many staffing positions, which allowed us to implement these reductions. So the next slide shows you what the specific reductions actually are. So this is, I believe, the most specific information that we've shared thus far. This was actually in the precaution report. But the other information in terms of the second round of reductions is going to be similar this and is more specific than we've shared up to this point. But we're looking at 3 administrator positions, 14 certificated positions, which is teaching positions, as well as 4 support staff positions, to come to a total of approximately $2 million, which did get the 3rd year of that spending into the positive. So then we made the decision to go back on the ballot in March, and we're unfortunately not successful. Therefore, we are in a position where we needed to look at an increased amount of reductions. as well as have discussion about going on the ballot. And thus, the result of last week's work session was talk around a 7.5 mil emergency in November. We need to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and financially sustainable in what we're doing. So we need to look at more reductions, even with the potential passage of the levy. And based off the 7.5 mil levy on the ballot, that would be approximately $2 million in additional reductions for the district going into next year. So that's how we came to that dollar amount. If we were to look at a smaller levy in November, it would require a larger amount of reductions. If we were to look at a levy that wasn't going on the ballot in November but was going on later the following year, it would require an even larger amount of reductions because we would be losing a year of collection. Just like if we go on the ballot in November and it doesn't pass, it would also require a large amount of reductions because a year's loss of collection. So this time around, we try every opportunity we have, and we will continue to as we move through the school year. So there's a little bit of fluctuation in this process to do things through attrition as much as we can, because we've got outstanding people that work in our district. We are a place that people want to come and be a part of, and we want to keep those individuals here as much as we can. But unfortunately, with the level of reductions that we've already made, it's becoming very challenging to make all of those reductions simply through attrition. So we are looking at a reduction in force across the board, potentially. In addition to that, we're also exploring other avenues for reductions moving forward. There we go. So the breakdown of the reductions due to the March 24 levy failure is an additional administrator position, which is a position at the board office level, 8 additional teaching positions, and 18 support staff positions. And in addition to that, we're also looking at coaching co-curriculars, as well as other co-curricular positions. And when I talk about other co-curricular positions, those are supplemental contracts for things such as additional contracts that employees get to do curriculum work, to coordinate and run and support other clubs and programs such as K-Kids and Hope Squad that you saw this evening, to student council. Those are what supplemental or co-curricular contracts are. We're also looking at reductions to budgets across the board, departmental budgets as well as building budgets. The main reduction with the budgets to the building budgets listed here has to do with professional development and decreasing professional development dollars at the building level, which would provide less flexibility for principals in terms of working with their staff with professional development. At this time, I cannot get into specifics in terms of the positions other than what I've already shared. We do have additional work that we need to do in working with our associations in terms of notifying individuals, and we want to make sure we not only honor our contracts, but we're also fair to the employees that this will impact or may impact moving forward. And I'm hoping that following tonight, we will be able to moved fairly quickly in getting notifications out, but it will be no later than April 30th. And as a board, we will have more discussion about personnel in executive session where it's appropriate. Also want to talk about pay to participate. We have 2 sets of pay to participate fees that our parents currently pay. I think the obvious one is the athletic pay to participate fees. Those are currently approximately $330 and include a family cap. I think Dr. Kwolek had shared at our work session that in doing research of other districts, that districts that have pay to participate fees in place, many of them, their goal is to have a 50-50 split with parents or families. And we were actually not even close to that 50-50 split. In the past, parents were paying approximately 22.4%, where the district was paying 77.6%. So the goal is to increase pay to participate fees. We're looking at a level approximately of doubling them, about $660 per sport, as well as eliminating the family cap. So there would no longer be a family cap in place. That doesn't get us to the 50-50 split, but it gets us much closer to the 50-50 split. I also want to mention that these pay to participate fees, and it is a common question, well, what do these go for? These pay for transportation and they pay for the supplemental contracts. So they pay for the coaches and they pay for the fuel and the bus drivers and the buses, which can be much more costly than people realize, especially the transportation component. The second piece that we looked at are pay to participate fees in our music programs. Currently, our music programs pay to participate fees are approximately $100. I think they might be slightly higher in some of the music programs, depending on what they are. This is an area where we as well would be looking to double that fee to get it closer to that 50% mark. And just like athletics, again, it's covering those supplemental contracts. We do have similar supplemental contracts within our music programming for our directors to run those outside of the school day activities, as well as all the transportation that goes along with transporting our students to the various competitions, shows, and events that they participate in as part of these programs. So the total reductions, so we have 2 sets of approximately $2 million in reductions. So the combined amount of reductions going into next year, so again, I want to emphasize these are all implemented for next school year, are 4 administrative positions, 22 teaching positions, 22 support staff positions, in addition to coaching co-curriculars and regular co-curriculars, as well as budgetary cuts. From a personnel perspective, just the breakdown on the impact of the ratios, a big thing people talk about, or you see if you go to the Ohio Department's website, is your student to teacher ratios or your student to administrator ratios. So the overall impact on our district is approximately a 10% administrator reduction, 4.8% teacher reduction, and a 7% support staff reduction. One thing I do want to point out with the support staff reduction, because I know when I look at that, I see, wow, that's a lot of our support staff, and that's concerning. But what I want to point out with that is to remind that we are transitioning to buildings that are no longer necessarily going to need aides in them, full-time kitchen staff. So those reductions were able to be absorbed. where with our teaching staff it's a little bit different because we've worked on reassigning them with students where that wasn't necessarily didn't have to be the case with the support staff. I do want to commend Chris and Jim because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think they managed to work through all those classified support staff reductions all through attrition. And that was very purposeful. That was through not filling positions throughout the course of the school year that we normally would have been filling, knowing that we were in a position to make these kinds of decisions. So I want to see if there's any questions or further conversation regarding the information that I presented this evening. One last thing I did want to share that's important as well that I want to forget to mention is all of the reductions that we're recommending right now, they are cumulative. So when I say $8 million in reductions going into next year, that accumulates over the next 4 or 5 years. So these are not things that we are looking at bringing back or refilling. So it'll be then 16 million going into year 2. Keep compounding to provide more of a savings for the school district over time. And our goal right now was to make reductions that could be long-term, not things that we would be looking to bring back with the passage of a levy. So again, it's the continued philosophy that we had used with the precaution report to do our best to sustain district programming as much as we can. If we don't have a levy in November, or if a levy does not pass in November, we will no longer be in a situation where it would be close to impossible to be able to do that anymore, just because of the financial situation that we'll be in. In addition, the board does not need to take action on these reductions. These are administrative moves that we're making, especially the ones through attrition and just not recommending new people for the positions. However, with any reductions in force, those are positions that we will be presenting to the board, I believe, at the May meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. I appreciate that we are able to make these reductions without having to directly impact programming. As we've talked about, it's taken a long time to bring back those programming opportunities, and once they're gone, it's hard to bring those things back. I did have a question about the co-curriculars, though. Are those primarily like enrichment type activities at the schools, or if you could, a little more detail about those?
We'll discuss it more in executive session because it impacts specific individuals when we don't fill some of those contracts. But just generally speaking, yes, they're co-curricular type contracts.
I have a question, and you talk in this about November 2024 levy, and I finally received information from the State Department of Taxation about income tax. And it would be an earned income tax similar to what the city of Medina has. So that would exempt anyone who is on a pension or Social Security. And if we just use, and these again are estimates because I don't know exactly, a 1% income tax would net us, or we would get roughly, I'm in here, $17 million. And it would not affect any senior, which I think we've heard over and over. And most of my emails that I got was, I've lived here my whole life. I can't afford that amount of money. I don't want to move, and I don't want to go to a rest home, which we don't want you to go to a rest home either. But I know I asked Mr. Chambers to give us the pros and cons, and so do you have that?
I do have that, yes. If Craig could pull that up for me, that'd be great. Basically, what Ms. Pritchard gave was received was a listing of income tax amounts and how much they would generate. They listed both traditional and earned income taxes. A traditional income tax is based on modified adjusted gross income, and it's for everybody. Basically, it's calculated on the adjusted gross income for anybody that lives in the school district, because as a school district income tax, it affects those that live in the school district, not those that work in the school district. So it basically is limited to individuals in Medina City schools. Then you have your earned income tax. Your earned income tax is on employee compensation. So that will hit just employees who have net earnings. It also hits self-employment up to your adjusted gross income. She gave you what 1% would provide the district. I was looking more at trying to where we'd be in line with what our 7.5 mil ask is. So I was looking at a 0.75% traditional income tax, which would generate roughly $16 million, or an 0.875% earned income tax, which would generate $15 million. Let's see here. How do we do this? What we also have, as she said, was we were looking at pros and cons. So an earned income tax would not affect retirees, as she says. There's also the fact that with our retirees, I was asking Mr. Shields this the other day, our retirees, when we put this on the ballot back in 2011, we were probably at a 50-50 retiree to working class population. Now I believe we're at, and this is only my guess, I haven't looked at any numbers here, but my guess is we're at approximately 60-40, where 60% of our population is retirees. So I know that's why Ms. Pritchard is looking at an earned income tax. The tax revenue would increase as salaries increase. So when the salaries for anybody working in the district increases, we will get more money. And also, this would place the schools, and this is important for us, it would place the schools on the same side of the taxing issue as the city and the county, because right now, school districts are the whipping post of any I want to say it, economic development incentive, because what the city and the county do, because they're allowed to do, is reduce income tax or exempt income tax, or sorry, not income tax, exempt property tax from new developments. Of course, there's guidelines to everything that they have there. They could do it up to, I believe it's 15 years. But that means we're not receiving any property tax for those 15 years. But on the other side, the city's receiving income tax, the county is receiving, possibly getting developments in here for new residential properties. So it is a win for the city, it's a win for the school district as we get new people coming in. Now on the other side, we have the cons. And in the cons, we have that income tax earnings are volatile. And the reason for that is we've seen it before. We've seen it here in 2008, 2009. The economy was way down. And as the economy is way down, so are your income tax collections, because it means people are losing jobs, people are out of work, people are, the money's not there anymore. Also, your funding takes time to ramp up. That means when we set the income tax, if we put it here at November's levy, we won't be receiving that $19 million until approximately a year and a half or 2 years in. And the reason for that is because income tax takes time to, one, collect, and two, to bring everybody on board collecting that. And that's why it takes time to ramp up. Now, I said that the city is infringing on our property taxes when they set up an income tax. I don't want to be the one calling the kettle black and saying, let's do an income tax, because we'd be infringing on the city's tax collections. And we heard it with the sales tax here, that when the school districts got sales tax, we had a commissioner complain about it for the next 10 years, that sales tax, the school district income tax, is infringing on the county's right for sales tax. So I don't want to have that happening with the city and their taxation. You also have income tax really affects your low income tax earners. You know, even though they're paying less than your high earners, they are working paycheck to paycheck here. And as you take more and more out of their paycheck, it means that they are not going to be able to do simple, basic stuff that everybody needs to do. Also, here in the state of Ohio, we only have 1/3 of the school districts that do have a school district income tax. We do have one here in Medina. It is Cloverleaf. I believe they had a 10-year income tax that is falling off this year, and now they passed a continuous income tax. So their 10-year income tax, I looked it up again this afternoon, was at 0.75. Their continuous is at 0.5. So again, they are the only ones in Medina County. Voters, I look at my paycheck. I mean, my people make out my paycheck, and I still look at my paycheck on a biweekly basis. So I look to see that things are in line there. And voters will be reminded that the school district has an income tax. They'll be reminded every pay. So it's not, unless you think about passing a continuous income tax, it will be there every week or 2 weeks or a month, depending on when they get their paycheck. So that'll be there in their minds. So I just like to say that's a con there. And then also, the last thing, voters did reject a 0.5% income tax back in 2011 by a 58 to 42% margin.
So you're opposed?
Yes, somewhat opposed.
Well, I guess I would say this. I mean, that we are hearing over and over. I mean, we know this is going to be a tough election cycle because of all the craziness surrounding the presidential election and other things. I really, and the fact that our community is aging. And one of the things I've heard from Cloverleaf's treasurer and from Keith Durham, the finance person in Medina City, is that, for example, if your property tax goes up, you are always going to have to pay that property tax. If you don't get overtime, then your salary is going to be, your salary is lower, and therefore your income tax will be lower. I'm just trying to think of a way that we can get this passed so we do not have to make draconian cuts for our kids and for our staff. And that's what I'm looking at. And I don't know whether we can do it in enough time, but I think Ms. Parkhurst said something about trying to wrap out a survey or something to try to see what we could do.
I mean, that's something we could do if we wanted to send something out to the community. We could talk to Mr. Sable and Ms. Busby to see what the community thinks about an income tax versus property tax levy. I do have a concern. I know we've had a challenging time trying to eliminate disinformation and misinformation, and there's still a lot of people out there that I don't think understand exactly what a property tax levy is. I'm concerned that if we throw this into the mix, that might cause more confusion. Just a thought.
Dave, is the timeline the same for board resolution with the income as it is with the, I'm just curious what,
In all honesty, I don't know the answer to that.
okay. So that's something we need to figure out.
Correct.
Can I ask a nuts and bolts question? You mentioned 875 on an earned income would be equivalent to what we were looking at for the levy. Somebody making $50,000, what would that be a year for them?
$437.50.
I figured it was about that, but I wanted to make sure I was doing my math right.
Yep.
So $437.
If they maintain that salary, I'm concerned also about the volatility. That we're not guaranteed that amount that was calculated because of changes in income. It could go up, but it could go down, and that makes it challenging for planning purposes.
Well, that's why if we went with a little bit higher amount, even if the salaries dropped, we would still, and they'd have to drop, I think they would have to drop drastically. We still would have money to do it. My thinking is, levy hasn't passed twice, and I personally think that this is just a better option. At least we know we're protecting the seniors. And right now, they're the voting populace out there.
Yeah, I think we would have to go for a higher amount because the collection ramps up later, so it would impact the collection timing.
Right. Yeah, we'll get some in April, and then it's after that, and it says it takes 6 cycles for it to come up again. But if we make the cuts of $2 million for this, I think eventually we would see. And my other point is, if this works out, and I'm not saying to make it a forever thing at this point, because we can pick how many years we want. Maybe in 3 to 5 years, we don't have to ask for another levy or a very small levy, because we know we're going to have to go back out to the voters in a short period of time. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. I just think I think it's a legitimate option. So that's all I have to say. Do you guys have anything you want to say, son?
Oh, I'm just a thinker. No, I mean, I think it is a different avenue that we can go at. I'm not for or against it necessarily right now, but I would want more input from the rest of the community before we start doing that. Because just looking at it, like Andrew, for the $50,000 a year, how much comes out? Right, $400 and some dollars. That's about as much as $200,000 appraised value home, right? And that's a single income. And I understand you have to make up the money someplace for the money that wouldn't be getting input by the seniors. But we're creating a whole nother, I guess, wage disparity within our community. By demanding more from people with less, which I understand that was one of Dave's cons. But for me, yeah, the biggest thing is thinking about that, and other than that, just input from the community, because I think this is a big step that will affect a lot of families. And just a lot of people that are working in general, which I understand the levy would too, as is. But I don't know that, tonight not that we're trying to make a decision tonight, but tonight I could say, oh yeah, I'm all on board for this.
Yeah, I would suggest that, I think we need to get more information in terms of timing. I think that's a big thing. You know, the good news, if it has to go on the ballot, I don't know, but I'm guessing we're probably looking at a similar time frame as we would for.
Yeah, I would think
Yeah.
similar, because the only
So
thing
we have
that-
some time to work through things and have some conversation.
Right, the only thing that takes earlier time is bonds, because those have to, they have to certify the bond, and then it has to go through the state too, so.
Just some thoughts. I think this definitely requires some further investigation, but I think this is a really big ask for the 40% of the wage earners in Medina that aren't retired. And I think it's going to be a really big ask, much bigger than a property tax increase when you look at it. That's just back of the napkin spitball, but some investigation and some examples will, what do I want to say, vet that out. So it's just a comment.
Yeah, I agree that it's going to be confusing to voters. However, I know the comments have come across stating that, I don't have kids in the schools and so forth. So that has been, as Mrs. Pritchard said, it's been very apparent that that is what a lot of the senior citizens have stated. They own property, most of them do, so that is going to affect them. It's a tough one. I'm kind of torn in between both of them.
Well, no matter what, I mean, whatever we do, you realize that somebody who makes $50,000 is not going to have a kid on a baseball team or a football team or any other activity. So we already are setting ourselves up that participation is going to drop, okay, in our sports, or they're going to go elsewhere to get their sports where they don't have to pay as much. So basically, we are making athletics for the rich right now in our cuts. So, and I mean, the whole community comes out and supports, the events, but the reality is, yeah, all right, we can say we're going to double it because we have 1,100 kids participating in sports, but when they get that first bill of $660, we're going to be down to about 800 kids playing sports, if not more. And same with music. There's, music allows kids who, that's their creative outlet, and, they've taken their lessons, whatever. But they just, that is their one thing, and their parents can't do it. And a lot of, it just is something that I think we really need to think about, because I don't want to keep kids out of any activity that we have because of the cost. And I also don't want senior citizens to feel they have to move out of Medina. So that's kind of where I'm coming from at this point. I was asked by one voter to think outside the box. And so this was my outside the box. This is a way, I mean, we can't, I would love to have a bake sale where we could raise $14 million, but the reality is we're not raising that kind of money. And people say, well, find other ways to do it. Well, I would love to do that for you, but I don't know. I mean, if you want me to give up my salary for this job, I'll gladly give it up if you want to vote for whatever, but it's not going to change, it's not going to turn the tide. So I just think we need to think what is obviously best for our community. If we can get a survey, that would be great. But I just think we need to look other ways to get money. And I do want to point out that I did invite Representative Sharon Ray here today to explain funding. You can see she's not here. So Kids First has plenty of information on what her associate sends out whenever you have a question. So anyways, that's all my comments. for right now. I'm sure I'll have others, but anyways.
I just wanted to add just a couple things to follow up. I think it's important for the community to know too that when we don't make these cuts lightly, but we are doing our part. We're not just there with our hand out asking for more money. We are doing what we can to make cuts that won't impact our students too much. So I think that's important to point out. And regarding athletics, I agree. We try to keep things affordable for our students. It sounds like we would be more in line with surrounding communities in terms of getting the pay to participate up to a 50-50, as well as we have currently programs in place that help our students who are not able to afford the current fees. There are scholarships and opportunities to help them participate, and I would anticipate that those would remain as well.
Anything else, Mr. Sable?
I got
that's
one
it.
thing. I just wanted to add on that, you know, I like that we have this option in front of us. I like that we're having a conversation about it. It is something that's outside of the box. It is something that's different. It is something that I think at some point we should definitely consider, whether it's, you know, this election cycle or it's something later. But I do want to make a point that by next meeting, we need to have our decision for the November levy, vote on it and get moving with it, because the levy committees and bringing information to the community, it needs time to get out there. We saw the November to March turnover. It was like a mad dash. It was a full-on sprint. And the more time that we can give with hard details on this is what we're looking to do in November, the better off we'll be also. Not saying that, you know, it will or won't push it across the line, but time is always valuable when you're looking at getting stuff like this taken care of.
Thanks, Mr. Nichols. Mr. Chambers, Finance.
Yes, the district bank balance decreased $2.3 million in February to $66.2 million. This is $7.8 million below last year at this time. The five-year forecasted revenues were above last March by $715,000. The five-year forecasted expenditures were below March by $1.5 million. Personal services, benefits, purchase services, and supplies accounted for this decrease. Sales tax fund balance decreased to $3.9 million. The district spent approximately $64,000 in February, with the majority on heritage renovation. The rec center cap fund balance increased to negative $54,000. The district received $482,000 from the city. Per Department of Ed and Workforce Precaution Planning Monitoring, 12-month personnel services reduced 4.37, or I believe it's 4.34% between February and March. The district received approximately $162,000 in investment income. This total is approximately $28,000 above all of last year's income. And finally, the district had forecasted funds true days cash to be 164 days. This is down from February by 12 days and below last year by 48 days.
Anyone have any questions?
Also,
Oh, sorry.
district has supplementals. We have supplementals for the class of 25 and for athletics. Class of 25, I believe, was they were looking at providing meals and food for prom. And then we had, for athletics, we had two different ones. One was for the spring season, and one was for booster and student council donations. And then we had also field trip for Claggett. I added that on today. This is for their Cedar Point trip. Last year, Claggett's Cedar Point trip was paid for by their PTO. This year, the PTO is, pardon me, that's what I heard. You could tell me. used to flow through PTO, so all the monies went to the PTO and they flowed it back. Okay. So they were paying the Cedar Point trips itself. So, thank you very much, Brian. And so the 11,004 is for the payment directly to Cedar Point. We have changes in our title grants, and these changes are for the return of advances. Then with the return of advances, these were monies that the board advanced to the title grants here last year. I believe it was last June, to get the grants in the black, which is sort of, okay, I'm going to say it, it's sort of obnoxious because title grants are a reimbursable grant, meaning we have to spend the money before we get reimbursed, but by law, we also have to have those grants in the black before we could close out the books. So that's the reason for the advances, and now they're returning the money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Board comments. Mr. West.
Not a lot. We missed the April facilities meeting was canceled, but we do have one coming up here shortly in May, early May. We also have a Medina County Career Center board meeting next week, along with you, Ms. Pritchard. They've got a lot of stuff going on out there. They're building a new, I believe it's construction trades building.
Mm-hmm.
That's ongoing, so they have lots of stuff going on out there. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more for the next board meeting. Although I didn't attend, I do know that our rugby team this weekend beat a team from Dayton that's a travel team that was supposed to be really good, and they beat them 31-0. My best friend's son's on that team, and I guess he was in beast mode for the weekend, as I was told. So I guess he laid waste to quite a few of their team members. So good on Medina. And then finally, I did attend the spring musical this past weekend, Prom. Is a great musical. I would highly recommend anybody that hasn't seen it go Friday or Saturday this week. I am continuously amazed at the talent level of our students. In this particular case, the kids doing a musical, you can tell that they were exceptionally proud of their accomplishment and just very passionate about it. I think at the end, at the curtain call, there was probably 60 kids up on the stage. Great musical, a lot of fun, funny. All the performers are just phenomenal. I think some of them really could play on Broadway and you wouldn't know the difference. They're that good. So highly recommend anybody go out and see Prom this weekend at the PAC. Friday, is it at 7 on Saturday too? Yeah. So it's 7 o'clock Friday and 7 o'clock Saturday. And that's about it.
Mrs. Parkhurst?
I was unable to attend policy committee because I was ill, so Amy, Mrs. Moyer attended that though, but that was our first reading of policies. Our second reading will be at the May meeting, and then we'll be bringing those to the board at the May board meeting. Curriculum committee met today, and there, as always, there's great feedback from our parents on the committee. I appreciate so many of our parents being a part of that committee. We have great representation from each of our buildings. And then lastly, I just want to make a PSA because the weather is getting nice out and there's going to be more kids out playing and riding their bicycles. So just everyone to be aware when they're driving to not be distracted and just pay attention on the roads. And I hope everyone can enjoy all those activities that Mrs. Busby spoke about earlier. The school year is quickly approaching an end. Thank you.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes, the policy meeting, we did go over the first reading, so thank you. And then I also since the last meeting, I attended the Finance Committee meeting, and we had several people from outside of the school that attended, which was nice to hear their opinions and feedback to Mr. Chambers to give him ideas on what we could do to get this to pass. So get the next levy, or what to do for the next levy. So a lot of good thoughts went into that, which was nice. I wanted to shout out to the Claggett Power of the Pen team. So they went to Kent State University and the regional tournament. And let's see, congratulations to the 8th graders, Kayla Roche, Vanessa Relic, and Bryce Young, and 7th grader Meredith Merkel for earning honors with their writing. So, and Bryce Young also earned a spot in the state tournament being held at Ashland University in May. So thought that was really awesome. Also went and saw the prom this past weekend as well. I was there the same day. And I do believe it's actually going to be Friday, Saturday, and the 2 o'clock on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, this weekend. And I had a lot of people that were concerned about it. This was the school edition of the prom, and you know, I went to see it, number one, because there are a lot of great talented kids in Medina, and also to kind of, you know, see what these people were saying that were concerned, and there was nothing to be concerned about. It is something that is talked about all the time now. It was made back in the early 90s, and it was for that preface, and I will tell you, it was a very well done show. So very PG-13 as it was.
Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, so I missed, well, not missed, the facilities meeting was canceled, like Mr. West said over there. And then I wasn't able to, sorry, not putting you on blast, Ryan, my bad. I wasn't able to make it to the curriculum meeting today, just wasn't able to get off work at that time. But Ms. Parkhurst was able to attend and, you know, gave her update of it, of what went on. So I want to talk, have a conversation with, I guess, the room, but it's directed at our representatives. And you can look at, in the Senate, we have Mark Romanchuk, and then there's Kathy Salem is actually running against him. And then you can look at the 66th district, which Sharon Ray, who Jean had mentioned was invited to our meeting tonight, did not show up. And then running against her is Bradford Scott Quaid, who I see is in attendance tonight. So thank you for making it out to our board meeting. And I want to talk about being open and transparent and available for the school districts. Not just Medina, but Medina County as a whole, right? And I'll be a good neighboring district. I will also mention Melanie Miller in Brunswick, and Drew McElveen, I believe is his last name, who's running against Melanie out there. Listen, we want to just have conversations. We want you guys to be at the table. We want to talk about districts, about funding, and I know funding's a bad thing to say in our state house because, well, we just passed the funding thing. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but it doesn't feel like it's really helped us out much. It's also a shell of what I think it was intended to be. And we just want to have conversations. We want to talk about why the schools are treated the way they are in the State House. We want to talk about why certain votes may have went one way or another for those that are elected. And for the candidates who are not the incumbents, We want to have a conversation and just sit down and say, okay, what are you going to do for us? And I think that conversation is critical no matter where it's at. I don't think that it has to be specifically with the school district, while it's nice, but I think that a conversation with our community, because our community is getting fed up and annoyed. Why do the schools need money? Why this? Why that? I hear you guys have all this money. No, we don't. Not all of the money that you think is going to the districts from your taxes is going to the districts. We've talked numerous times about now the expanded voucher program, and how that interacts with our public schools. These are just the conversations that we want to have. And I know, I believe the superintendents meet, and they've invited state representatives to come out. I don't know if the treasurers have done the same thing. And I don't know necessarily about the district ourselves, if we've reached out and said, come out. Well, besides Jean reaching out to Sharon Ray recently. But we've made attempts to have these conversations. And when I've told people this, and they've reached out to the representatives say they've never talked to us. So I'm going a step further. Here, on camera, tonight, recorded, come and talk to us. I don't care if it's with the community. I don't care if it's with the district. I don't care if it is a conversation with the board. If you don't think you've been invited, here is your formal invite to come and have a conversation with us. We will set up a time, we will set up a day, and we will set up what the audience may look like, talking with you guys, and let's do it. Let's have these conversations. Stop beating around the bush and avoiding the school districts. Let's have a conversation now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Since everybody's mentioned a couple things, I'm not going to go back over other than the prom was outstanding, and I would recommend you going. On the last day before spring break, I attended the RUT Mini Day, where the kids were allowed to go to different workshops. But first, we were able to hear the Akron New Steel Drum Band, and there was a former RUT student in there. Then I went to the STEM workshop. I wanted to go to the drone thing, but I didn't want to take away the time from the kids from flying the drone. But my partner and I were build a boat from cups, rubber bands, straws, paper, popsicle sticks, and aluminum paper. Now, I'm sure she looked at me and thought, boy, this lady's going to be out of it. And I'm just like, I said to her, why did they give us paper? I mean, this is not going to work. But anyways, I want you to know that my wonderful partner, a young lady in the 7th grade, we beat everyone. We dropped in 163 pebbles, and our boat never sunk. And of course, I had to be, one team next to me said, you're very competitive. And I said, well, sorry. But I was just so excited that we won. And so then, because I was competitive, I went to the phys ed area so I could be more competitive there. But that was a great experience for the kids from Wade, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Greisen, the assistant principal, for doing all that. Amy mentioned Claggett, but I would like to mention that Claggett was part of the dragster racing at the Career Center. It's the first time, so thank you, Mr. Condit, for having that. And Katie Eyrig was a 6th grader at Claggett, won the Macy Halleck essay contest about a local charity. And she got money from, I think it was Afternoon Kiwanis. At the high school, the April Student of the Month were Hannah Fox and Varun Rodriguez. I stopped in and watched the men's volleyball team play. They're very talented young men, and right now they're first in the GCC. Boys lacrosse and rugby, I've seen them both, and they're having fine seasons. Yesterday, I was able to get to both baseball and softball because they were playing next to each other, and it was great. We beat the softball team beat Mr. Sable's former home school, Shaker Heights, and the baseball team beat Strongsville, which is always a big rivalry. And the signs for Mr. Wells, the dedication, they look great that are there. And I know Mrs. Wells is very appreciative of that. At the high school, the teen juried art competition, then the scholarship division, Izzy Castillo was first and also best of show. Sarah Kerrigan was second. And the teen juried awards, Sylvia Hip was second. And Brianna Flowers will have a display in Columbus until May 17th. And then from the Career Center, their skills competition last week, in second place in auto refinishing, Gio Papa. Second place in criminal justice, Blaine Chrisman. Third place in photography, Abigail Wagner. I also would like to remind anybody who's between the ages of 18 and 23 and doesn't have anything they want to do, free adult ed tuition. So all you have to do is call out there and ask for Mr. Kalina, and they will take care of you. The one thing Mrs. Busby didn't mention was the Run for Fun from the Medina City Schools Foundation is May 3rd. And then on a sadder note, a longtime music teacher here at Medina, taught for 27 years and 44 overall, Walter Bixler, passed away this past week, and I believe his funeral service is tomorrow. I know calling hours is today and the place is packed. So Walt was a wonderful teacher, and his wife was also a music teacher here in the district. So that's all I have. Action items, Mr. Chambers.
Yes, if it please the board, action item number 1, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the March 2024 Treasurer's Financial Report. Action item number 2, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following supplementals to the 23-24 permanent appropriations. And I gave you these supplementals before. Action item number 3, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following return of advances. All of these advances are title funds going back to the general fund. And this does not affect the 5-year forecast because it was already in the forecast.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer action items number F1, the treasurer's financial report from March 2024. Number 2, the supplemental to permanent appropriations, and number 3, the return of the advances.
Thank you, Mr. West. A second?
I'll second that, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Smoyer. Any discussion? Okay.
Mr. Chambers, just real quick. I know that you've gone over this multiple times about the ESSER funds, but sometimes we still do hear in the community they want to know what happened to the ESSER funds. Can you just briefly describe the purpose of the ESSER funds?
The district used the ESSER funds for a number of different purposes, but mainly for HVAC, updating, upgrading. We used the monies for technology. A number of items came in through technology. In the beginning, with the ESSER funds at the very beginning, we used it for a number of supplies to keep distancing and disinfecting and everything else. We also used ESSER funds, and Tina would probably be the better one to tell you about this. We also used ESSER funds for, I believe there was, Tina, please.
Well, but also there were specific purposes that we had to be able to use them for. We could not just use them for general operations, correct?
No, nothing was for general operations. So.
We used them for learning recovery from the pandemic. So we used the money to buy Chromebooks. We used it the year that we did MODA. All the online school, all of that was Apex, that online curriculum. So all of those kinds of costs were covered by ESSER funds.
Thank you, Mrs. Cassidy. Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Sorry, I had to pass that off. She's more involved in it than I.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that the ESSER funds are used up, and that doesn't mean that there aren't continuing costs from the pandemic. Students across the country are struggling with attendance and also with instruction, specifically in language arts and math. And those are things that school districts are continuing to address, whether it's in continued extra supports, new curriculum. So we're still continuing to address the needs and the results of our students going through the pandemic that are not funded and we are no longer receiving funding for.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can roll call?
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Smoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, action items for you?
I thought for sure Jean was going to bring up again how her team kicked my team's butt in Jeopardy over at Canavan back in
I know.
January.
I know.
Number one is donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations. I do want to point out the $4,400 donation to the athletic department from Medina Athletic Booster Club. This is to assist in purchasing new chairs for the gymnasium. There was a similar donation on last month from Student Council. So both entities are working together in order to make that purchase possible. Number two, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revisions to the 23-24 district calendar as presented by Dr. Kwolek. Number three, it is recommended that the Board of Education accept the attached high school science, social studies, and math textbooks for public preview with the intent to recommend for adoption in May 24 following the preview period. These materials have been shared and discussed with the district curriculum committee, and this is for a review period. If there are individuals that wish to review materials, they can contact the Department of Instruction at the board office. Number five is a resolution to award bid for Heritage. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the resolution to award a contract to Town Center Construction for the Heritage Elementary School renovation to preschool project to the amount of $1,148,000, including the alternate one option. I do want to point out that this bid came below expected of approximately $600,000 plus some change. In addition, I also want to point out it's important that this is being funded through sales tax funds. In order to shift funds and be able to do this project this year, you are going to see that we're not going to have the major roofing projects, which are typically $1 million projects, occurring here at the high school, and we have a much decreased amount of projects occurring across the district with paving. And I see, Ryan, you look like you want to add something.
No, I just wanted to remind or help with the Heritage Project. That is sales tax money funded, so that funding will come from the sales tax money. And the other thing is, I wanted to make sure that I said that we are recommending the base bid plus alternative one, and that gives you the 11th and 12th classroom with bathrooms. So, and if you look at that base bid with the alternate was $89,000, and if you take the full bid and divide it by the other 10 rooms, those come in at over $100,000 a room. So doing the alternate now makes a lot more sense than waiting and doing it later. So that's why we're recommending that at this time.
Thank you. Next is service agreements. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements. The first is LL Therapy Services, which is speech and language therapy services. This is a 2-year contract. This is for students that require these services per their individual education plan. In addition, there's a recommendation for a contract with Suburban School Transportation which is outside transportation to transport a student. I'm assuming this is a special education student. Yes, and Mina's shaking her head. Yes, typically that's the case when students need this type of special transportation. Number 6 is personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all required documentation to the Department of Human Resources. We do have several retirements on this agenda. I do want to point out that next month we will be honoring all of our retirees prior to the board meeting and then at the board meeting itself. In addition, we also have the non-renewal of all of our substitute teacher contracts, which is regular annual business. And I fully expect all these substitutes to be rejoining us for next school year.
Can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's action items?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve superintendent action items G1 through 6.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Smoyer. Any comments or questions? I have one question for Mrs. Cassidy. Seems to be a big concern. Are these actually books, or because somebody said my child has not had a book for 6 years, and I'm like,
So when we purchase textbooks, generally what we've been doing now is we purchase online textbooks, especially in 6 through 12, not so much in K-5. And so all students get an online textbook, and then we also get a class set of regular textbooks for the classroom, so that students aren't carrying 5 heavy books around. Now that we have Chromebooks, it just makes sense. But when we do purchase online textbooks, we do have to pay for those as well.
Right.
So that's part of it.
okay, well, don't, the statistics class that's being offered at the elementary school?
No, it's an elementary statistics class at the high school.
Oh, at
It's
the
just
high school.
called elementary
Oh, okay,
statistics.
sorry. Sorry, that was confusing. Is that just one class?
It's a course, but it has multiple, it's taught multiple times during the day. So,
Okay, I
yeah.
mean, so I
It's-
saw that there were 30 books and then other stuff.
That's because it's a class set, so
Okay.
there'll never be more than 30 kids in the classroom at a time. And so
Okay.
then when the next 30 kids come in, they're using those same books.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I want.
I just want to jump in real quick. As curriculum committee, we met today, and I can tell you there are books, and they're really heavy. We all reviewed them today, and I carried, I think, 4 over. Yeah, they're really heavy. And then also, I wanted to remind the board that elementary statistics class, I think this is the 2nd or 3rd year, the state had wanted to require districts to have classes beyond Algebra 2. So this is an alternate course for students. Instead of taking Algebra 2, they can take the elementary statistics class and get that math credit.
Does this have anything to do with financial literacy? Different, okay, I just want to make sure. All
Yeah,
right.
I do think it's important to point out that we have to pay for content. You know, similar to when you go and you purchase a movie for streaming, you know, you no longer go and buy the VHS tape or the DVD, but you're still paying the $25 for the movie that you paid for when you got the physical VHS tape, beta tape, or whatever.
And actually, these online resources have much more content than just the actual physical textbook as well.
Oh, I'm sure. And the last thing I wanted to just say is, for the resignations, for purpose of retirement, I know many people have retired sooner than they would want to, because it's an effort to try to save younger teachers. And I'm not saying you're old, but more veteran teachers are stepping aside, and I just want you to know how that is a very kind act, that you're sacrificing and maybe another year and maybe $30 more in your retirement, but it is appreciated by everyone that you're doing that, so thank you.
It's a very selfless act.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, I have one question. I know the last 2 months, as you had mentioned, we had gotten donations for the chairs. those folding chairs. Is there a number we're looking to hit for the folding chairs, or is it just, we're getting donations, and as they go to chairs, we're getting chairs? I know the old ones were kind of beat up.
No, we have met the dollar amount for the donations between student council and the athletic boosters, so we're going to be able to replace all the chairs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'm assuming that the preschool will be very happy that this project's going forward down at Heritage. I see
Yes,
him
I
out
see
back there.
Heather
That's good.
smiling in the back.
Yeah, on the town center construction, Fanning and Howie's our architect, correct?
That's correct.
Have they worked with them before?
They have not, but we had a pre-construction meeting and to go over the bids to make sure that everything was included in the bid, and the meeting went very well. They were very thorough with their estimate, so we're very confident that they're going to be able to perform the work.
Yeah, I see, and I see Fanning and Howie has a recommendation letter for us for that, so.
That's
it's
correct,
good.
yes.
That's good to see.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It was quite surprising, the difference between the two bids. But we're confident in that all the due diligence and all of that. I mean,
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Due diligence has been done, so we're very confident that this is a good bid.
I don't know why this is, but I know out at the Career Center with their project, they got bids and they came in at way under what they had originally budgeted by a big chunk. About this same percentage, so good for us.
Yeah, I think the construction materials are becoming available where during the pandemic they weren't, and we were seeing huge increase. And it was roofing and paving is where we saw the biggest increases, and those numbers still haven't come down as much as we'd like them to. But this construction project came in real nice.
thank you. The only other thing I wanted to mention was I wanted to thank Mrs. Pazitka. She works really hard on those service agreements to get multiple years where we can have some cost savings. So thank you for your efforts with that.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for public comment, and if Mrs. Drewley would make her way up, if you need the box, let us know. I'll read this. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to comment in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for a public comment from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep your comment to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually.
Thank you. Good evening. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Victoria Drewley. I live at 896 Laurel Glens Drive, Medina, and I'm here on behalf of Kids First Medina. Our mission is to support the students of Medina City Schools and to advocate for the best possible education for them, and we believe it's essential to heed the voice of the community. We advocate for an approach that prioritizes feedback. We understand that that might make things complicated for the board, and Kids First Medina stands ready to aid in gathering feedback in what you decide to do. Amidst this reflection, Kids First Medina is embarking on a new initiative titled I Wish My Community Knew. Our goal is to amplify the voices of our dedicated teachers and staff members, inviting them to share their personal motivations and stories behind their decision to dedicate their careers to public education. I'd like to share with you a sneak peek of this initiative by reading the script from Medina High School teacher Stephanie Idebrout's I Wish My Community Knew video. I've devoted 29 years of my life to teaching public education as an English and French teacher, and I do this because I believe that every child deserves the opportunity to learn and to practice critical thinking, because it's important for our society and is important to our children. And every day that I can find an opportunity to make that happen, every day that I can see my students thinking, challenging, making decisions, questioning, is a really, really happy and successful day for me. It is my challenge and my privilege to teach children in public education. We appreciate Ms. Idebrat sharing her why with us, and if there are any other staff members who would like to participate in our I Wish My Community Knew series, please reach out to Kids First Medina so that we can share your stories. As we navigate the challenges posed by the levy outcome, we understand that difficult decisions are necessary. However, we believe that by incorporating the feedback and stories from our educators and our initiatives and the feedback from our community, we can navigate these challenges with empathy and understanding, ensuring that our actions align with the best interests of our community and our students. We are all at our best when we're working together for the future of our students and for the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your hard work that you have done, along with your committee and Hannah Magrum. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, compensation of a public employee, discuss with the board's legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are subject of pending or imminent court action, and preparation for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session.
Thank you, Mr. West.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Roll call.
Yes, Mr. West? Yes. Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Smyer?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
There will be no action taken after this executive session, so thank you all for coming. And again, if you have any questions, those of you who are watching in TV land, get a hold of one of us, and we can hopefully answer your questions. Thank you very much.